So then I guess, like, wouldn't it also be, what are they trying to get us to put all our energy into? Where do, like, they want us to focus on certain things, and is it more about the emotion behind it? And that really, like, putting all this, like, hardcore intent and anger, is that the game at hand? And that way it plays into both sides? Because we do understand now, I think, a lot better about, like, if you put that much intensity into something, it literally takes over your body.
Right. The power of intent, the power of projection, the law of one, and that we create our own realities, and that they have to do the truth hidden in plain sight. And with Hollywood being their main spell casting onto the public population, now starting to lose a lot of its like control or influence, especially with social media, with us here right now, everybody finding themselves, finding their own truths, doing their own research, and no longer participating in the everyday dictatorial indoctrination.
And the industry wonders why people don't want to go back to work. Great mystery, right? As if it wasn't completely obvious for anybody who took a step back during this whole insane last set of years. Anybody who took a break and worked from home and realized that, hey, it turns out that life is actually a lot better than the 9 to 5, and why would they want to go back to that same, what feels like indentured servitude, right?
I agree. It does feel like indentured servitude in a way. I think that possibly the end of the Civil War was just a way to narrow down the amount of choices you had.
Like everything from, you're forced to go to school in the United States. Basically, it's you can be federally charged if you're a parent that doesn't allow your child to go to school and doesn't submit properly that you're supplying sufficient homeschooling. And so the idea that the child must be taught a certain curriculum and it's got to comply with what's been voted upon by, some board as certified education, approved for the necessary teaching of young ones. All right. So what was the purpose of the whole education system in its final stage? Basically, after schools went from being private, 100% of them being private, into finally we have this idea now, this concept of a public school system, something that follows a fixed curriculum, one that's agreed upon by a council. So now we have a totally different type of education. And this one was designed to teach people, to teach young people, how to slide right into the work for a job system. The bell rings, you get used to the jumping from one task to the other, you get used to the scheduled daily times. It's very predictable, it's very structured. Works well for a lot of people. But then there are the outliers, right? The ones that are the problematic folks that just can't stand to be scheduled. These guys don't want to tell you what time they want to show up. They want to show up when they're good damn well and ready, and when they're ready to bring their A game, and they don't want to show up 5 minutes before then. The free thinkers. So it's definitely a new dichotomy in the industry now, when people realize that they have their own lives to live, and they'd much rather be happy than they would be secure in the employment of some place that realistically never will appreciate them, and they've just got a nice employee number.
Would you say that that's a good thing for society or a bad thing for society, or is it kind of one of these things where it's like the end justifies the means?
It's absolutely a good thing, because it's a wake-up call. Now, mind you, that any of those people could return to work if they realistically needed it. If it turns out that they actually needed to go back to work, even though they don't want to, they're probably going to anyways, right? So no problem there. A lot of people have returned to work. They have returned to the positions that they were previously in, provided that their choice and their voluntary involvement with the whole fax process, right? If they have views that don't comply with an employer, then there could be controversy and they may not be able to return back to work. Say if the employer requires you to partake of some kind of treatment process that's still in the experimental stages, and that's a condition for you to work there, well, a lot of people aren't going to go back to those companies. But otherwise, they can. But a lot of people aren't returning even with the fact that there's no real requirements. And it's just because they found that they like to live their life in their own time and by their own means more than they wanted to work for somebody. So they're not returning back to these otherwise meaningless jobs that don't challenge them, where they can't realistically progress or grow, where they're doing menial tasks that kind of suck their souls dry, right? A lot of people just aren't going back to that. And can you blame them?
Right, like they've been. The Great Reset is the beauty of it is half of the souls that, like, the spirits out there that like knew that their lives were wrong, like their spiritual journeys being stuck in the cog of the machine was not it, were able to be put on pause, forced to interact with those immediately most close with them, like especially family, roommates, stuff like that, and then a lot of free time as well, where it's like, well, I've had enough of that person, well, now time to lock myself off, but now you're stuck alone, but to the internet to reach out to whatever is like most intriguing to you. And all these people now have found these different truths, these different realities of, well, hey, like obviously the majority now have woken up to the sham of whatever the scamdemic was, and then a lot of people suffering from side effects health-wise that are just like, was that necessary? And like, that wasn't good. And then just waking up, branching out, and forever changing this web. And then the next step now, I truly believe, is integrating and positively using AI. And that's why this time, or a little bit earlier in the night, but the same crew plus Thomas and Nate next week with Paranoid American, we're going to do some actual AI artwork generation and, do some skits, interact some artwork, and come up with some stuff. And that I encourage everybody that is on this path of content creation and whatnot to apply and use the tool of AI to as productive and positively as possible. And if you haven't seen my interview with Julia last night, where she told her story of Sam Osmanovich's recent book that he's published of his interaction with AI, that where he fed the artificial intelligence all of the information of the Bosnian pyramids, where the AI is like, no, that's like a scam, it's been debunked. And then Sam entered all of the different facts of like how just the anomalies and evidence showing that they are intelligently constructed, that by the end of his like conversation with this AI and inputting the information, the AI had changed its position with this new alternative data set and was like, okay, there's also now this alternative reality. And it ended it all off with writing this just majestic poem of like so eloquently using and highlighting every single like anomical, like engineering anomaly and like just sacred aspect of the site possible, that Julia was like stating how it like made her cry. And it's like, so there's like the AI level is up enough to influence human emotion to that extent as well, but that the human interaction and positive input of this alternate information, that the AI is at this young state, the crucial state, that we have to feed it the alternative facts, the reality, not just let it accept the narrative that it's been programmed that of this mockingbird freaking oppressive reality, and instead all of the mysteries, these discoveries, these breakthroughs, everything that like is true and experienced by all of you, share it and put it into AI and document it and experience it and build the better world and build art out of it. All right. I'm going to finally shut up on my crazy tangents, taking this all over the place. And Sarah, Shem, you did have some stuff to talk about with photons and piezoelectrics with Jeremiah. Would you guys like to get into that?
I'm not really prepared for that conversation at this moment in time, but to elaborate, I guess, kind of on what you were saying at the beginning of that discussion, you were kind of talking about the the structure of society, and I'm just confused about, I guess, why the COVID narrative is. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that word. The pandemic narrative is all like it. Why is it possibly a good thing? And it seems like a lot of the stuff that you're buying into fits into the same group of with these people who caused this situation to begin with.
Oh,
yeah. Well, what I can definitely say is this.
Don't get me wrong. It's not a positive thing. Like, that was definitely
the whole thing was a wake-up call.
Exactly.
Yes, it was a very bad thing that a lot of awareness came out of, and the awareness was a good thing. So the question, I think, was, was this a good thing that people were not returning back to work, and that the whole infrastructure of our economy has sort of been disrupted by this event? Well, the event was in itself a good thing, but the people were smart enough to actually make something useful out of it, and that was to become self-aware in the time that they had to think away from the chaos of the office and the requirements of an employer. So
like,
I
just think
reset is to still have us all eating bugs, and like, believe you me, I am not down for that, and do not encourage that for anything. Like, they're trying to get this totalitarian nightmare to stay, and I'm saying no way, and that the exact opposite needs to happen, and that there's this, we're at this critical mass right now that needs, where it's going to ignite at some point. We were reaching that point of ignition, and that it can go one of two ways, and that chances are, and what it looks like in past lore, legends, and even archaeological or anthropological records, are lots of giant crashes of populations and wiping us out, and we're headed for another like Tower of Babel moment right now. That singularity.
Well, think about what you're saying right now, though. You're saying that Klaus Schwab has the power to do this.
No, that's what they're trying. That's what they're trying to project on us in their demented reality. They think they do, but we definitely are not going to allow that to happen.
Maybe we're just not on the same page about this. So are you saying that what happened in 2020 was completely natural, or did someone cause it?
Oh God, no! I've from the very beginning, I've been saying, like, the science, I like 1000%, like, is undeniable that this was genetically structured, that it did, like, it came from a lab. I've shown.
We can't get too deep into it because the video gets taken. Okay, so you're saying that it was human made.
I've been showing since the beginning that the Canadian Winnipeg Lab of Virology in 2016 or 20, I think it's 2016, it might have been 2018, but in those years, we documented the Canadian RCMP charged and caught several Chinese foreign exchange students working at the virology lab with a SARS-CoV variant that had 95 or 96% the same identical genetic makeup of COVID-19 itself.
So, okay. So what I'm saying is, I think both of you are just undermining the power of the entertainment industry and these people and how much they actually have influence over society. Because what you're saying is that people deciding that they no longer have any responsibility to society to provide and give back is a positive thing, where the way I'm
That
pointing
is
it out.
absolutely not what I'm saying.
No,
Absolutely not.
definitely not. Yeah, I also it's like
what
it's got to be
what
a
I'm saying is
50-50,
this,
right?
So let me reword this so that just my simple statement there can be clearly communicated, just so there's no misunderstanding. What I'm saying is, I think that it was a good thing. People had the opportunity to take a break away from the everyday, continuous, repeated labor of the workplace. And I think in doing so, they had the opportunity to assess what was really important to them in life. And a lot of people, having had that choice and that chance to assess what's important to them and what they want to experience in life, have made different choices in terms of how they will choose to communicate and produce in society. They've still got to pay bills. They're just going to do different things. And just because they're not doing it in the same office under an employer anymore, because now they're owning their own business or they're pursuing their own entrepreneurship, is not a bad thing. I mean, if you think about what gave us the Industrial Revolution, it was pretty much everybody being an entrepreneur. I mean, huge companies and conveyor belts full of parts where somebody did the same job every single day in and day out. The whole Ford Motor Company production line thing, that didn't exist. Okay, so and the reason why we got so far so fast from steam to electricity to all these other fantastic things is because it was very much a put up or shut up society. You had to have the skills. It wasn't something that you could advertise your way through and convince people to get it. If it didn't work, it just simply, you weren't going to sell it. So this is a good thing for society. It's what made the first revolution, the second revolution. It's time that we actually reassess and we start another one where people just do what they're best at, what they really are passionate about, instead of doing what gives them the biggest paycheck.
I think we agree 100% on this, and I'm sorry for misrepresenting what you said, but the point I'm trying to make with what I was saying was that I agree with everything you just said about the Industrial Revolution, but at a certain point, the same group of people who caused what happened in 2020 took control and stopped the Industrial Revolution and made it so only a certain group of people could have control over certain things like that. So we can't actually really do anything.
But did they? Really? Think about it.
It seems like
it's a constant ongoing battle, and that we have
it
to
doesn't
be
seem like it's any.
That's why I was asking you about the examples of people who are providing inventions to the public who are not being assassinated or put in jail or something like that earlier, because I haven't seen evidence of people who are able to actually contribute to society without being killed, put in jail, or forced into a situation where they're making it like more of an economical gain than as opposed to just helping the world.
Well, we've literally got an entire conference where people come on and tell all about advanced technologies that they've personally worked on and they've been involved with, and so this is like a regular thing for us.
Great point. That's like the key part that we're literally like in the process of working on and developing and transitioning with, because it's like there's been this slow new allowance and now of since 2012 where they've allowed these technologies and these technology the advanced people with the knowledge and designs to share it without getting killed online. And now, since I guess whenever the official UFO Pentagon Tic Tac acknowledgement is now the official race of on a industrial and militarily scale, we're endorsing the research into this sort of stuff, so it is real, and we'll start fielding realities and funding these sort of things. So it's this transition of generation of murder and suppression into coming out of the dark, and these different oftentimes genius people that have been nothing but attacked for their entire lives and developments, and existence. For instance, John Hutchinson and stuff, like people that it's like the government directly used to be like, oh, you've debunked, you're fake, like these people are charlatans, and then all the hate and trolls and stuff that comes with that. And then,